This week, a Valentine's vacation. But could time on the road together end up wrecking your relationship? Coming up on this week's travel show, I attempt to meet some of the Prohibition-era ghosts stalking the streets of Chicago. We're clowning around at a Romany circus in the French capital. And Michelle's here with her global guide. This week, Vikings in England, some alpine history, and the dog sleds of Canada. And welcome to the travel show, coming this week from Chicago, where I'll be investigating the spookier side of the city's mafia past. But first, Valentine's Day is celebrated all over the world, so it's the perfect time to head off somewhere pretty for a bit of cuddling. But travelling with your significant other isn't always plain sailing, so this week, Henry's put together a travel show guide to romance on the road.
It's that time of year when we're all feeling a bit more soppy than usual, and what could be more romantic than packing some bags and whisking your partner off somewhere pretty to bask in all that lovely love together? Somewhere all cozy and European, maybe?
It's safe to say that London will receive its fair share of romantic getaways, but wherever a couple end up, they'll be hoping for a fairy tale time together full of love and laughter. If only it was that simple.
Yes, the course of true love never did run smooth, and that's especially true when you take that love halfway round the world on holiday.
So stood up here, overlooking beautiful London. I mean, what could go wrong for a couple?
Everything. Everything could go wrong. It's nothing to do with the destination. In fact, even if it's a really, really romantic destination, if there are issues with the relationship, then it will just make it even worse because you will feel it should be wonderful because you are in an incredibly romantic city.
So what can you do to make sure a romantic break doesn't break the relationship? Sarah thinks planning is key.
Holidays can't fix relationships. People fix relationships. Individuals fix relationships. And I think you've got to put a lot of planning consideration in the destination you're going to, whether it will bring the best out in you or the worst out in you. I would avoid all-inclusives and cruises, things where you're quite claustrophobic. If you're not getting on, you literally cannot get off the boat. And that makes a bad situation far worse.
But many people do get it right. Scour the internet and you'll find many couples who've packed in their old boring lives and embarked for life on the road together as travel bloggers.
If you want your partner to do something they're reluctant to do, don't try to convince them to do it. Just tell them that you're gonna do it and how awesome it's gonna be.
The problem with traveling is that every single day you have to make a million decisions. What time do you want to wake up? Where do you want to eat breakfast? Where do you want to go after breakfast? Where do you want to have lunch?
If you're doing like a long-term trip, split up.
Oh my God, you need a break.
One piece of advice for couples traveling together is learn to laugh.
Definitely need to know how to laugh. There are going to be times when you're cold, tired, hungry. It's obvious who is the nearest target for when you're feeling overstressed.
If you know that one person has anger management issues, don't go on a journey, don't go on a holiday where there's potential to aggravate it. It sounds like common sense, but for example, if you've got a long journey by car where you're going through very, very busy cities, don't do it because it will just aggravate things even more.
In fact, there's one lesson to learn, it's this. Eventually, you will get on each other's nerves.
The thing that irritates me most, you see it right here, is Dave air drumming. It drives me crazy.
Every time we get to a hotel room, he takes every single thing out of his backpack. It makes me nuts.
You like to drink.
Yeah.
And you don't pay attention to how much it costs.
That's really nothing
that irritates me about you, Tony. Nothing.
Oh.
I think it's very healthy that couples argue on holiday. It's a sign of communication. Again, it's to do with the individuals, whether they feel that if they argue or they're terrified of arguing, that it will break the relationship. So I think arguments are very healthy on holiday, and also it's always fun making up at the end.
And these two have to be the undisputed king and queen of fighting couples. Lucy and Mike Willett have even called their blog 1000 Fights.
Hi, I'm Lucy from 1000fights.com.
And I'm Mike.
I like to talk on the plane. Mike doesn't. I like the window seat. So does Mike. I think the pinnacle of our fighting experience is when Mike left me at the Louvre with no money. I mean, it was horrible, begging for money, trying to get back to the hotel. Finally get back to the hotel like at midnight, where I found that Mike has comfortably enjoyed a 4-star meal because he had to have his strength to go look for me.
I was very worried about her, and I knew that I was going to have to go on the streets of Paris to find my wife.
He was so worried that he had to have 4 courses, including creme brulee.
It was delicious. It was really good.
Yeah. Those things that you do together can't be replaced with things. They can't be replaced with a car. They can't be replaced with anything you can buy. It's something that you have together that no one can replace because it's an adventure.
So even when your bags have gone AWOL, your wallet's been stolen and the hotel's double booked, always remember that one day in the far distant future, if you can just get through this, you might look back together and laugh.
Traveling makes you more youthful, it makes you more interested in the world around you, it makes you want to get out and explore and do things.
We probably wouldn't be together at all today because we were one of those couples that was stuck in a rut. You know, we were like so many people going in separate directions, living separate lives, and travel brought us back together.
Well, that's the Travel Show Guide to your Valentine's Day getaway. We're putting up more tips and experiences from our bloggers up online, and all the details should be on your screens now. And if you're still looking for some inspiration, here are some suggestions from us.
Paris, city of love. But the more famous parts like Montmartre and Saint-Michel are often shoulder to shoulder, and the French don't like you putting love locks on their bridges anymore. Try instead exploring the streets, alleyways and cozy restaurants of Montparnasse on the left bank. Argentina's an excellent destination if you like your romance with a flourish. In Buenos Aires, or here in the town of Salta, you'll find great live music in many bars and clubs. Or you could even go the whole hog and buy yourselves a steamy Argentine tango lesson. And the Maldives are definitely a picture postcard honeymooner's destination, but come at a high cost. You could try cutting your hotel bills by staying in any of the newer family-run guest houses that have sprung up in recent years. Romance and thrift? Ooh, a match made in heaven.
More now from our series Behind the Scenes at some of the world's more unusual circuses. This week, we're in Paris.
Je m'appelle Alexandre Romanès. J'écris des poèmes. J'ai publié 3 recueils de poèmes. Et j'ai un petit cirque qui s'appelle Romanès Cirque de Zigane. Dans ma famille, 200 ans en arrière, on faisait déjà du cirque. On faisait un petit spectacle dans la rue avec l'ours, les femmes dansaient, les enfants faisaient un peu d'acrobatie. On va entrer dans le chapiteau. On allait de village en village avec nos chevaux et nos petites caravanes en bois tirées par les chevaux, voilà.
Je suis la maman de 5 enfants et j'ai 5 petits-enfants. Je serais triste pour eux de les voir travailler dans un bureau. Et je ne pense pas que mes enfants ils feront une chose comme ça. Je ne leur souhaite pas, j'espère pour eux. Là, on est dans les caravanes, il y a le chapiteau qui est à 2 mètres.
La France, c'est un des pays où, effectivement, le cirque est plus, en Europe, peut-être le plus ancien.
C'est fini.
Ouais, j'aime beaucoup. Bah, tout le monde aime que les gens nous regardent et qu'ils les applaudissent et tout, tu vois. Bah, c'est bien, ça nous donne plus de force. Quand on voit les gens qui sont amusés et qui sont avec le sourire sur le visage. Il n'y a pas tout le monde qui fait ça. Hein. C'est dur le cirque, mais bon, il faut apprendre aussi. Et moi, j'ai appris beaucoup.
C'est l'âme, c'est l'émotion qui sort. On a les intellectuels, ainsi que les comédiens et des acteurs. Vraiment, il n'y a aucune barrière de public.
On est à côté de la société. Nous, on est une petite famille, on est très solidaires les uns des autres. On est un petit village, je dirais, à côté de la ville.
Alexandre Romanes and his family providing shelter and fun in drizzly Paris. Time now for this week's travel update. Starting in Brazil, where extra police are now patrolling the beaches of Rio following a series of mass robberies there. Many people are now opting instead for artificial beaches, like this one on the banks of Guanabara Bay. Roadblocks and helicopters are now fairly common at some of the most popular natural beaches, including Ipanema, Aparador and Copacabana. The discovery of an ancient document may have won a little English town a place on many people's travel itineraries for 2015. A copy of the Magna Carta, which celebrates its 800th birthday this year, has been uncovered in council archives at Sandwich in Kent. Only 24 others are known to exist in the world. The document established the rule of law and set limits on the power of the monarchy. It's thought the council intends to use it as a tourist attraction. And with any luck, these waiters won't need much of a tip. The drones may soon be a common feature in restaurants around Singapore, where they're now being trialled. They're guided by onboard cameras and sensors and can carry about 2 kilos of food at once, just enough for 2 pints of beer, 2 glasses of wine and a pizza. The Travel Show, your essential guide wherever you're heading.
Hello, I'm Michelle Yana-Chan, your global guide with top tips on the world's best events in the coming month. But first, in the city of York in the UK, the Jorvik Viking Festival continues until February 22nd. The event echoes the same February celebrations that took place when York was under Viking rule over 1,000 years ago, which marked the end of winter and the approach of spring. There'll be battle reenactments, falconry, archery and guided visits around medieval sites. Across the Atlantic in the USA, Louisiana will be launching the New Orleans Jazz Market, the new permanent home for Irvin Mayfield's New Orleans Jazz Orchestra. Mayfield, trumpeter, composer and cultural ambassador, says he's determined to put New Orleans back on the jazz map with this performing arts venue located in Central City, a neighborhood important in the city's brass band and Mardi Gras traditions. There'll be a jazz archive, tributes to past jazz masters, and of course performances by renowned musicians of the day. To the mountains now. In Europe, the Alps will be marking 150 years since a landmark year for mountaineering. Back in the year 1865, there were 58 first ascents in the region, including of the Matterhorn, the Aiguille Verte and the Brenva Spur on Mont Blanc. To commemorate the anniversary, there'll be films, exhibitions and memorial climbs through 2015, from Chamonix to Zermatt, paying tribute to the mountaineers and guides, to the artists and to the writers of this golden age. Staying in the Alps, the Snowbox Festival has found a new home in Alpe d'Huez, playing March 21st for a week. There'll be headline bands, acrobatic ski displays, slopeside yoga, ice sculptures, a mountain art project, and a world record attempt in fancy dress. In warmer climes during the months of March and April, the archipelago of the Azores will be the place to spot blue whales on their migratory routes as they head north from the southern Atlantic. The islands of São Miguel, Pico and Faial are good bets, but although these creatures are massive, at 30 meters long and weighing 170 tons, it's surprising how tough they are to spot. 1,000 miles across winter wilderness, led by a pack of dogs. In Canada, on February 7th, the Yukon Quest International Dog Sled Race begins in Whitehorse in the Yukon, ending on February 21st in Fairbanks, Alaska. It's cold, even by Canadian standards, with up to 100-mile-per-hour winds. Terrain is hazardous, crossing frozen rivers and 4 mountain summits, and weather unpredictable. But the race begins regardless on February 7th, ending whenever the final dog team arrives at the finish line. Up to 50 teams take part, each consisting of a musher and 14 dogs. We're talking endurance to the extreme. That's my global guide this month. Let me know what's happening in the place where you live or where you love. We're on email and across social media. Until next time, happy traveling.
There was a time when a trip down a Chicago alley with a man dressed like this meant that you might not be walking back out again.
Chicago is the place for gangsters because of Al Capone. He was untouchable.
But this is no mobster. This is Alex Felix, and he runs a rather unique gangster tour.
Chicago has its gangster tours and it has its ghost tours. I'm the only one that combines both because, first of all, I'm a gangster enthusiast and I'm a paranormal investigator.
These days, Chicago is the powerhouse of Midwest America. But at the beginning of the 20th century, gangsters reigned supreme and the streets echoed with the sound of Tommy guns.
This is 2122 North Clark Street in Chicago, and this is where the actual St. Valentine's Day Massacre took place. It was a gang war, North Side against the South Side.
At this spot in 1929, 5 members of Chicago's North Side gang were brutally murdered. And one Al Capone was accused of masterminding it. But Alex believes that's wrong. Next stop on our paranormal tour is Mount Carmel Cemetery.
This is where all the gangsters of Chicago are buried. Al Capone being the most famous person who resides here permanently now.
Alex claims that he and a fellow investigator successfully recorded Al Capone's ghost at his gravesite, and apparently the gangster gave them the true story behind the massacre.
So what was the story behind St. Valentine's Day? Did you order that hit?
That is really creepy.
Our final stop is the Class Restaurant in Cicero, the area of Chicago that Capone once called home.
This is where the gangsters of Chicago used to come and hang out. They'd be playing roulette in the back, they'd drink in here with their friends and even pop next door where there was a house of ill repute in operation. Today, this is supposed to be a place where there's an awful lot of paranormal activity.
Alex has gathered a group of fellow paranormal investigators and they've brought with them a bewildering array of equipment that they claim can help them communicate with the spirits.
So we're going to use this implement called a spirit box to try and communicate with whatever entities might be in the room.
You'll hear a clicking noise, and that's actually just scanning through all the radio stations, basically.
Her name is Krista. Can you say Krista?
Now they're calling me.
That was really creepy.
Sometimes they get a little mean. Maybe ask them why they were mean.
Yeah, why are you calling me terrible names?
Gorgeous. I called you gorgeous. You guys hear that?
Oh, well, that's better. Okay.
It's not every day you get to exchange banter with the gangster ghosts of Chicago.
Gorgeous again. Did you hear that? That was gorgeous.
Apparently, ghosts and spirits don't really like to have electric lighting, so unfortunately for terrible scaredy cats like me, the lights are going off.
Right now we're going to do what's called a real-time electromagnetic voice session using a phone application called the Spirit Phone. So we're going to step in here and see if somebody's going to talk to us. Spirits, is there anybody here with us? Please answer us with a definite yes or no.
We were recording our questions into a mobile phone app.
Would you like to ask a question?
So is there a reason that you don't want to communicate with us?
The idea is that the phone will then record any ghostly voices that our ears can't hear.
Is any of the Capone family here with us right now?
Okay, so now we play it back and we see if we can hear any responses.
Sure.
Okay.
But when Alex hit play, we all got quite a shock.
Is any of the Capone family here with us?
Yes or no?
What was that? It sounded like gunshots.
That was my music. I don't know why that just started playing. Sorry.
Okay, so a false alarm there.
Any luck?
No luck.
Sadly, there was nothing else otherworldly on our recordings.
They're just not cooperating today.
Yeah, it's funny.
Usually they're very talkative, telling us to get out, you know. Are you here with us?
While it may not have convinced me that the place was haunted, it's definitely an interesting way to learn about the city's darker days.
This allegedly is a bloodstain.
And if you are a believer, well, then it's a perfect chance to try and have a good chat with the gangster ghosts of Chicago. Well, that's it for this week's travel show. Coming up next week, I'm back in the States, taking to one of the world's most iconic roads and exploring this country's obsession with four wheels and an engine.
It's an American thing. Everybody likes their car. Everybody wants to go fast.
So do join us then if you can. And in the meantime, don't forget you can keep up with us while we're out on the road in real time by signing up to our social media feeds. And you can delve into our archive, which is available on bbc.co.uk/travel show. But for now, from me, Krista Larwood, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in Chicago, it's goodbye.